Lineages of Matthew and Luke. The two lineages are the same for the 14 generations from Abraham to David. Then, the Matthew lineage takes us through the kings of Judah, while the Luke lineage goes through another line. But there were never to be kings in the first place. Israel rejected God as ruler over them when they rejected God's mouthpiece, Samuel, meaning heard of God, demanding a king like the other nations. So God gave them Saul, the first king of Israel. God would later rend the kingdom from Saul and give it to David. It is after David that the lineages diverge. The Matthew lineage goes from David to Solomon, and the Luke lineage goes from David to Nathan, both sons of Bathsheba. The reign of David is the type and shadow of the Messianic reign. The reign of Solomon is the reign of religious Christianity that followed the Messianic reign. Solomon had many strange women, representing the many strange, flesh or carnal-minded doctrines of religious Christianity. The majority of the kings of Judah do evil, with a good king periodically entering in to try to turn things around, but to no avail. Judah's last king was told to submit to the king of Babylon and serve him 70 years, after which time he and his people would return to the holy city Jerusalem. But Zedekiah refused to submit to the king of Babylon, which would have saved his life, the life of his people, and Jerusalem. Zedekiah's eyes were put out, and he was carried into Babylon, where he died in prison. In refusing to admit to our confusion, we are left blinded to the truth, bound by our prison of lies, iniquity, or sin, the wages of which is death. Death with regard to the full potential of our soul. We are going into Babylon, whether we go willingly or are forced by the circumstances of our reality. It is after they are carried into Babylon that the two lineages come back together for 2 generations. The first son born after entering Babylon is Salathiel, meaning, I have asked God. This is where we return to a direct communication with God, which takes place when we humble ourselves by admitting we are confused. His son is Zerubbabel, meaning descended of, that is, from Babylon. The lineages diverge again until they both return to Joseph. What has led Jews into Babylon and what has led Christians into Babylon are different, so the generations back to Joseph will differ. Both lineages go through Judah, through Pharez, meaning breach, and therein lies the problem. For Judah prevailed above his brethren, and of him came the chief ruler, but the birthright was Joseph's. 1 Chronicle 5:1. Judah prevailed above Israel, as seen in her first king, Rehoboam, which means a people has enlarged. But the birthright was Joseph's. Both camps, Jews and Christians, the Judah of today, have forfeited their spiritual birthright by skipping over the spiritual works, which has caused this breach or gap. To receive the birthright, they will both have to return to Joseph, as both lineages do. Judas, Hebrew for Judah, bought a field with the reward of iniquity. What is counted as iniquity for the Jews is revealed through the prophet Isaiah, chapter 1, verses 13 and 14. What is counted as iniquity for the Christians is the doctrine of Paul, the Saul of the New Testament. The 12 generations from Salathiel to Christ represents the spiritual judgment that brings us to the spiritual Christ, through which we become true worshipers, worshiping God in spirit and in truth. But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for the Father seeketh such to worship him. John 4:23. The generations should have gone through Jacob's son, Joseph, not through Judah, which is why both generations go back to Joseph, the father of Jesus, through the power of adoption. All that came in between, from Judah the son of Jacob to Jesus the son of Joseph, shows us our disobedience and God's mercy, who gave us David, a man after God's own heart, who came to turn the heart of the people back to God. But we are a stubborn and stiff-necked people, which was said of the children of Israel, chosen out of all the nations of the world to represent us, the people.